after losing custody of my children for praying these verses with them. See www.sayno2pas.com. I realize that Satan is scared of us Christians wearing our spiritual armor and uniting our shields with other Christians to advance against the rulers, authorities, cosmic powers, and spiritual forces of evil. The Apostle Paul used the Roman armor as an analogy of the spiritual armor we must wear every day. Following this analogy, Roman warriors conquered the known world of their days by using a tactic that was the predecessor of the modern tank. As they were advancing against enemy lines, they would form an almost impenetrable protective armor by joining their shields, a formation known as the testudo formation. With this formation, the Roman soldiers will advance against their enemies. Since the soldiers in the front line will get tired by receiving most of the beating from the battle, soldiers will alternate being up front. Injured or tired soldiers will move back to a protective line, as more rested soldiers will advance to the front. So the formation will have the most rested soldiers always leading the charge. That's what we must do to retake America for God again. We must lock our shields and advance against the rulers, authorities, cosmic powers, and spiritual forces of evil trying to destroy America and the world.
Remember this: what we do in life will echo in eternity.
To recover his children and save millions of other children in similar situations, Dr. Jimenez ran for the Florida Senate in 2016 and is running as lieutenant governor in 2018. If the citizens neglect their duty and place unprincipled men in office, the government will soon be corrupted. If a Republican government fails to secure public prosperity and happiness, it must be because the citizens neglect the divine commands and elect bad men to make and administer the laws. Noah Webster. Vote for Nathan Jimenez governor ticket in 2018. Make Florida great again. Patriotism, morality, and faith. Love for America, family, and love of God. America is like a healthy body, and its resistance is threefold. It's patriotism, it's morality, and it's a spiritual life. If we can undermine these three areas, America will collapse from within. Joseph Stalin. There is a war being waged against the natural family. One man, one woman, in a committed, monogamous, lifelong relationship with their biological or adopted children. From the unborn being sold as body parts to the highest bidder, to children being trafficked by the Department of Children and Families, DCF, $3 for each dollar DCF spends in foster homes. To the youth in juvenile courts being sold as in the kids for cash fraud. To adults being unconstitutionally denied access to children by family courts under the disguise of the best interests of the children. To increase state coffers, federal matching dollars for child custody orders. To the elderly in probate and guardianship courts having their life savings stolen by those who are supposed to protect them. Visit www.bowfamily.us for more details on the war raging against American families. Hold on, my friends, to the Constitution and to the Republic for which it stands. Miracles do not cluster, and what has happened once in 6,000 years may not happen again. Hold on to the Constitution, for if the American Constitution should fail, there will be anarchy throughout the world. Daniel Webster. Over 24 million children live today in single-parent homes, in great part, according to experts in the field, due to a form of government-sponsored child trafficking via family courts. All over America today, children are removed from parents without the due process of law, with many of them ending up dead or being abused, like in Florida, where more than 534 children lost their lives under the care of DCF in a matter of a few years.
Follow the money.
Similarly, millions of children are growing up without a parent because of state-sponsored division of the family via Title 4D of the Social Security, which pays approximately $2 for every dollar the state can get from non-custodial parents in child support, plus billions of other federal incentives. These state incentives encourage the separation of children from one of the parents with terrible consequences, not only to the children, but to society as a whole. What is even more troubling is the connection between family court abuses and child suicides. Approximately one youth attempts suicide every 3 minutes. Over 60% of youth are victims of the divorce industry. Custodial interference, like the one promoted by family courts in the past year, is associated with an increased risk of suicidal ideation of 350%.
We are not for sale. We are not for sale.
Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim tribute to patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness. These firmest props of the duties of man and citizens. George Washington. The family courts and DCF have become one of the most destructive forces in our society. They have created a single-parent generation, defrauding Social Security funds to harm Americans. The results are horrifying. Single-parent homes account for 63% of youth suicides, U.S. Department of Health and Census. 90% of all homeless and runaway children. 85% of all children exhibiting behavioral disorders. 80% of rapists motivated with displaced anger. 71% of all high school dropouts. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions. 85% of prison youth. According to the National Center of Child Abuse and Neglect, NCCAN, in Washington, D.C., a child is almost 5 times more likely to die in CPS custody than at home. Almost 3 times more likely to be physically abused in CPS custody than at home. Over 8 times more likely to be sexually abused in CPS custody than at home. Almost 2 times as likely to be neglected in CPS custody. To stop these crimes in Florida and start an avalanche of reform across this nation, vote for Florida Governor Nathan Jimenez in 2018. BruceNathan2018.com. VoteMario.us. VoteFamily.us.